We live.
You live?
Yes, folks, what's up? It's your boy Dennis T. Next to the reddest red man. He is red
It is. I am the
like a
reddest red man.
baboon's butt in the Emperor of Ali's
Yeah,
zoo.
boy. Good
You know,
morning,
nigga?
all. Good morning, everyone.
Hey,
Good
my
morning. I want to
brother. So
say
this is Pitchfork Politics, by the way, and we late, but
we late.
what I
We
gonna tell
late.
you? We go
We
fix
having
it. We go
some
fix it.
technical difficulties. We like TTT on a regular basis. Remember them days?
Of
We
course.
just want to say Michael Awai, Michael Adolf Awai, the man himself, the real original red man. He hasn't joined us as yet. He is the one having technical difficulties. We're trying to help him in and stuff. Of course, last week we had a lot of discussion. We got some good feedback about, we did that article that talked about education, where Prime Minister Keith Rowley was very, I want to say, forthright, honest. I don't know
Forthright?
if that's I didn't say
I don't hear what you said.
I said forthright.
Okay.
And honest and for once did not politicize the reality of the thing. And you know what was interesting about what, before we go into all the news, because we have plenty, you always have news in this country. What was interesting about that, and I want everybody to understand, he was making that speech at a breakfast meeting, for want of a better word, of PNMites and higher uppers. Let's refer to them as higher uppers, at the Hilton. An appropriate place where if you're going to have breakfast at the Hilton, it's expensive, so you're only having it with higher uppers. Let's be real. So he made a speech, and in essence, the speech, as you know, to recap people who didn't hear last week, he was basically saying that secondary schools are producing gang members. That was the gist of what he was saying. He went in, gasp. He went into a long explanation about why. He went into and a very good explanation as to the curriculum, and that we just have kids rolling through school and so many different things, right? And to recap briefly, we have had over the years, we've had the pass mark for SEA, common entrance and all of that reduced. It used to be 50%, where they had 10,000 kids every year failing. It has now been reduced to 30%. Imagine 31% is a pass mark. How does that even make sense? Anyhow, is that as that goes, and he talked about the fact school and there's a curriculum and so on and so on. Right? The end result of all of this, as the Prime Minister pointed out, is that schools are in effect breeding grounds for young gang members. This was a point made by Morgan Job many years ago, that the same Prime Minister Keith Rowley objected to.
God bless your soul, boy.
Right? Objected to vehemently at the time, saying that how he was racist, or saying making a lot of other things, Mark. But what I wanted to get at, and I want people to understand before we get into the news and stuff today, those comments that were very succinct by Mr. Rowley, very intelligent, very honest, as I said, forthright, very straightforward and to the point, and very non-political. He will never make that on our platform. When he's on our platform, in front of the sycophants, he's not going to make that type of a statement. The statement he's going to make is how blame Kamala, and it's this people, and we have the greatest education system in the world, and we're producing the greatest scholars on earth. That is what he will say in front of the sycophants. And that is the nonsense that we have to deal with. Because what the general public needs to know is exactly what he said in that breakfast meeting. Because it's the truth. He's not lying. He's not saying anything that isn't true. He isn't saying anything that isn't true. But he's not going to say the truth to the masses. And that is disturbing. When you have that type of hypocrisy in your politics, you cannot go forward. We are living in an immature politics society, right? And that is why I can't take it no more. So I don't know about you, but I'm telling you, he will never make that type of a statement in front of the sycophants. He go down inside, play back, and rewind and we get on and think, yeah, we had the greatest education system in the world. All that kind of utter nonsense. He, the Prime Minister, made the statement, not me, Chris Gill. He. So onward we shall go.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a comment there, Chris. A lot of what we are hearing as objective truth, and is of course is interpretation of data. All right, so let's look at some of the salient points of what you were talking about. 30% pass rate at SEA. 30% passing grade would get you into a secondary school at SEA. Are we saying therefore that if, let's just say, if your child is incapable of achieving a 75% math, 75% English, and 15 out of 20 in creative, if your child is incapable of doing that at age 11 plus, what does that actually say about your child's education? Because let's be honest here. Let's be realistic. Not every kid is going to be numeral illiterate. Not every child is going to be word illiterate. Not every child is going to be able to host a TV show with their toy play. Some children are really good at different things, and really bad at other things.
Building.
So let's ask ourselves, we as a society, these are our children. Where does this data show us we've gone wrong? And does this data in fact show us that this is a calculated outcome based on countless billions of dollars over the last 25 years? There are people in the education system who are saying that Trinidad and Tobago education system is 20 years behind the edge. I would say 25, honestly. I've been a PTA dad, I've been a student, I've been coaching, and it is my estimation that Trinidad and Tobago's education system is way behind. I'm not pointing any blame at the PNM or the UNC, but they've both been stewards of the economy for a significant portion of the last 20 years. So let us look and say, hey, put the politics aside, put the pitchforks aside. What does this data say? What does this mean? Like your children are homeschooled. They're using the US curriculum for what grades?
It's
an international baccalaureate, right?
Yeah, it's sort of an international curriculum, but
right. So
and
my
right
children,
now they in grade 1, grade 2, something like that.
Right. So my children, government school. You know what I mean? I went government school. I don't know where Chris went to school. I know your father didn't pay for much more than books and bag and maybe 2-3 bike along the way. The fact is the quality of education, like my peers in my common entrance class, most of them would have been able to get 50%. And if they didn't get 50%, Mr. Ram would have cut the tail daily. And he did often, including mine.
I want to say in my class when I did common entrance in 1978, and that's how far back it would have been, I don't think there was one single kid that would have failed, and we didn't do any excessive lessons, to be quite honest. And the examination since that time has become or has changed, modified. You have more writing. There's a writing component, which I think there should have been, and there are other.
Hey, wait, hold on. Wait. We have a guest coming in there, boy.
Who's that?
Look, hey, Michael Awai.
Michael, you reached.
Mike, boy, what's going on? Something happening with Mike.
Well,
Mike,
right.
Mike, you hearing me? Mike, you first of all, something, I think you're blocked here, boy. Add to stream, all right, let me see. Mike.
There's Mike. Yep. Mike, you need
Mike, the show just got 100% more good looking. Welcome in, Mike. So we were waiting for Mike and decided we would just go, and if Mike come in, he come in. And guess what? Mike never disappoints. Mike is standing up in front of light source.
Yeah,
Move from behind, move from the
We're on the other side.
yeah. Face the window so we can see all your cuteness.
Yeah.
All right.
Not as much as Chris. You see Chris looking like he in Amsterdam, standing up watching some woman in front of a window there. Much better, Mike. Making Mike bling in there.
As a red man, I'm the red light district.
You look like pink light. You look like pink salmon.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Maybe all that smog too, eh?
Yeah.
Alright, guys. So welcome back, Mike. We were talking about some of Prime Minister Dr. Rowley's conclusions that he would have based on some of the data that would have been coming out of the Ministry of Education and pass rates and SEA, etc. And I was just putting it forward. What does this really tell us? Separate the politics, separate the mama guys, separate the old talk. Are we producing a generation or multiple generations of illiterate Chinese? And if so, who, not no matter who is to blame, who fixes this?
Was there a problem in the 60s and the 70s?
Problem, I think, if we look at the policy positions, I think the Dr. Williams would have addressed it by increasing the number of schools that would have benefited from funding from the ministry and would have also allowed those schools to expand in terms of you don't have to pay to enter those schools. So that Concord Act, which would have taken place in the 60s to increase the number of seats and schools available to trainees by bringing the denominational schools under the umbrella of the Ministry of Education, I think we need to re-examine that whole structure, because my son is going to a denominational primary school. My older boys went to a denominational secondary school, and these schools are starved of resources. The ministry is not maintaining these schools well, and we as parents end up having to do cookie sale. The only thing we don't have is OnlyFans for PTAs. That's the only thing we have. We have a lot of issues that we need to address, and I don't think the current policy paradigm is doing a good job of that. But that's just my position. But
let's take it from
Mike.
the beginning. In the 60s, when the secondary school free secondary education started, you had a lot of quality teachers that the Prime Minister put into these new secondary schools, or the QRC, St. Mary's, etc., etc. So the quality was high, very high. In fact, they did a lot of transfers back to the colleges. Russell T. Sherr came out of St. James Secondary. Rolf Clark, who went to QRC, came out of St. James Secondary, and a few others. Okay, they asked me to transfer, but I told them no, I wanted to stay in St. James Secondary, so I stayed here because I love the red tie.
See what I tell you? We were betting that you didn't go to St. Mary's College.
No. So what has happened basically is that it went well for a decade. Okay, the quality was high, the teaching was excellent, and so on. They had exchange teachers out of Canada coming to Trinidad and helping to develop the whole education within the schools. What happened is that they extended or created the junior secondary system for the quote-unquote below 30% or below 40%.
Or below 50%.
And to me, that is where it changed. And then it changed again, because you now have the junior secondary as a secondary. For example, you have East Mokorapo and you have West Mokorapo. East Mokorapo is a senior secondary school, and West Mokorapo is a junior secondary school. You're now calling all of them secondary schools. It's like how they did with the police service. You start to get into the police service, you have to have 5 subjects. Now you have to have 3 subjects. Now we have no subjects, and you get into the police service. It's the same problem you have with the education. They have equalized the under 30% with the between 30 and 50%, and call all of them under 50%. So I don't think that the teaching is a problem. Okay, they still wear sandals and they wear rasp and they wear beard, but that's not the issue. The fact of the matter is that, I mean, we are helping a little boy who's going to East Mokorapo. The teachers are excellent teachers. The problem is that the boys are some of them 25%, 30%. So they can't understand like a 45% or a 55%. To me, that's where the problem is. So putting resources in it is like anything else. I mean, you could give resources to anything. And if the work and aptitude isn't there to get the work job done, it would never get done.
I think, Christian, I know you want to jump in here. I've seen it. I've seen that red glow of your eyes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But I think when we politicize the issue of SEA is too much stress for these children, right? We allow people to accept these lower grades as well as a result of stress, of some kind of socio-economic outcome that is uncontrollable. And I want to put my foot down and say, no, that's not the reason. The reason your child is not performing at SEA is because most parents did not perform at SEA. They are ill-equipped to give their children any amount of assistance. But furthermore, our culture prevents us from accepting, boy, I too don't see better now. I can't teach my child. Let me find some way to get this child. And then on top of that, with this whole tutor thing, the price of education, you might as well try and send your child somewhere. If you're spending $350 a week, and some people are spending $350 a week, $250 a week to do lessons, right? You might as well send your child a pay school. Where is it, boy, Chris?
I mean, obviously, the $250 a week, $350 a week ends up costing quite a lot. And I know we're going to get into this discussion at some point, but we can't get into it fully today. The reality of it is the education system, just think of it for a second and just think of the practical side of it. In a primary school, my daughter-in-law was in a class with 33 kids, or 32. So the class had 33 kids. 33 kids, 33 6-year-olds. Just think about that. If you get 33 6-year-olds now and put them in a room, trust me, you could hardly hear yourself. That's the first thing. That's 33. On top of that, the room is hot. Like how it's hot down here today. Well, out there, because up here, not so hot. Right? Hot. And then in one corner of the room, you have a fan, a 36-inch fan blowing. So you have some children by the fan. Now, the children by the fan can't hear nothing that teacher's saying. Right? These are practical realities. So you have kids that are hot and sweaty, those who are affected by noise. How are you going to even, in just from a physical point of view, not talking policy and not talking syllabus and not talking any of those things, deal with just getting those children to be attentive, to pay attention in class, to even absorb anything that teacher is saying. So that in itself begins a difficult process. So you have all these old schools that haven't been renovated or changed or modernized in the last 50 years in some cases, maybe 100 years in some cases. We're wasting time with that. We still trying to have schools with classes with 33 children. All of those things are things that are factors that are affecting the reality. You talk about parents. Well, if you have parents who don't know maths and don't know English, they can't help their children learn maths or English. They don't read to them. You go and you meet any young kids today and their grammar is poor. Their diction is horrible.
Nah bye punctuation now.
Yeah. They can't speak properly. They can't pronounce. It's coffee and chocolate. No. They can't talk in any, you know what I mean? They just cannot speak properly. They cannot express themselves in any kind of normal manner. So, and where did they get that from? Because they've seen it, they're following any traits of the people that they see around them, their parents, their uncle, the teachers, and all this. So it's just a sort of a thing happening. So we need to figure out where to draw the line in the sand and make some radical changes. And those changes do include syllabus changes as outlined by the Prime Minister, but they also include physical structure changes. We need to change how our schools are built. We need to change how our schools are built. We need to change how we transport kids to school. We need to change the school hours. We need to have teachers and what they teach. We need to have teacher evaluations on a consistent basis. So all of these things need it's not like one little thing will fix it. It's like marginal gains around all numerous things that will make a significant change. That's my contribution on that. I see we 20 minutes past the hour. News time. What happening in the news? Anyhow, let me get positive news. You agree with me?
No.
All right, well, let me hear it. Go ahead.
When you were going to school as a little boy, you had fan? No. You had air conditioning? No. It was hot? Same hot like today? What's the problem?
It didn't have 33 kids in my class.
Well, I had 40 kids
we had 20 kids in my primary school. My primary school class had 20 kids.
Yeah, but your parents could have read and write, Michael. That's a big factor. You was a decent child. I hope you was a decent child.
You know the long desk where you have to have 3 fellas in the desk or 4 fellas? The long desk?
Yeah. That's the same thing. We was on the long desk.
10 of that, 10 desks in a room. Piece of cake, that was 20 kids.
You know, a lot of what you're saying, Chris, is true. But let's look at sub-Saharan Africa. Let's look at you're going in the wilds of Guinea, or in Ghana, or in Kenya. You look at some of those.
All of them place hot.
Yeah, all of them place hot. But look at the educational attainment. You're talking about some of those schools are basically mud floor, packed earth floor. The teacher, most of the time you would see a teacher is a person with a doctorate. You're seeing a person with a higher level of educational attainment. But what you're seeing is passion. You're seeing teachers going the extra mile. I'm not saying that all teachers in Trinidad don't go the extra mile. But I am saying, and I'm saying this categorically, that tutor needs to reassess its obligations to our children. For sure. Everybody in tutor gets paid by the Ministry of Education. Every principal in the Principal Association gets paid by the Ministry of Education. Down to the security guard, the custodian, they are all being paid by the Ministry of Education. You know who is not being paid in this triangle of education? We parents not being paid. Our children. Yeah, they might get a little pack juice or a box lunch. But our obligation is to our children and seeking our children's best interest. And I am saying categorically, without fear or of contradiction, that we are not getting value for money. If I don't do work with Liam, the work is not going to get done. And yes, he has a great teacher, and she's a wonderful, very caring. She's a parent of her own children. She's very loving, kind, and also very good teacher. One of many in the service. But how many of our children can claim that their teacher is going the extra mile? How many of them stay after school to make sure that those children are safe? How many of them stay after school to make sure that, hey, you know what, little Johnny didn't do so well? But in my year, and I'm sure all your old like dirt, so in all your year too, teachers would have done that. Now people saying, yeah, you know what, teachers have families too. Yeah. But this is a vocation. This is not a work.
Yeah.
If you ain't ready for that jamming, get next work.
Yeah, next work. Michael, what year?
Let's talk more talk, man. We're talking 20 minutes on the same thing.
I just want to know what year Michael went primary school.
Michael and them had to build the primary school.
1956.
Yep, pretty much.
All right. In some news, the headline of The Guardian has a picture of a woman at Kamuto. Her name is Rosita Lacroix. And she's pointing out numerous potholes on the Kamuto main road. Ma'am, welcome to Trinidad and Tobago.
Pothole dad.
Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago. Sinanan say, whatever, we will get to that. Another interesting, this is The Guardian, another interesting headline here is someone note THA records $6.4 million jazz festival loss and also $6.4 million. So they lost 6.4 million in the Jazz Festival, and
So that means they spend more than 6.4 million?
apparently, and they lost 0.7 million in the carnival, in the October carnival, which I don't think is so bad.
Nah, not bad at all. That's
not
good.
bad.
That's good. When you say a loss, they're talking about a commercial loss.
Yes,
They are
they're talking
accounting
about
loss.
commercial loss. They're talking about
So they haven't, of
accounting.
course, measured brand value, brand equity. They haven't
No, none
measured
of that, none of
secondary or tertiary economic activity. They haven't done any of those things.
Any of those things.
So this
And
is
I think,
straight up economic accounting assessment.
yeah, and to
Carry
be quite
on.
honest, I can't, I wouldn't fault, the certainly October Carnival at 0.7 of a million is not bad. 6.4 million for the Jazz Festival. We should probably dig into that. Not we personally, but you know, people should dig into it and say, yo, here what's going on. We really need to check out what's going on with that and thing. It goes into detail here with, you know, incurred the 7 million loss in, you know, after they spent apparently 9.2 million for the carnival, right?
For the carnival, not bad.
For the
not bad.
October carnival, that's what they say, and they spent 17.5 million or something like that for the Jazz Festival.
Work that math, Chris. 17 million for jazz. Why? Because you're paying these Americans B-listers, right?
No,
you're paying these B-listers and Burna Boy and all of these critters.
Let me make sure and get everything right. Following the carnival last October, THA Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transport, Tisha Burris, has pointed out that the initial budget for the carnival was 17.5 million. However, she said they actually expected to spend, after the Tobago Festival committees and agencies tabulated, it would be in the region of 12 to 13 million for the carnival, which was 4 million less. I'm not seeing the actual figure for the Jazz Festival. Okay, hold on. No. They're not saying anything. So yeah, let's say altogether they might have spent, I seen something with 5 million here. And they kind of break down the monies there, how monies went, you know, 3 million to 3.1 million for subvention. Somebody contributed $330,000. Ticket sales were 2.4 million. They seem to have all the things ducks in a row from an accounting perspective. Responding to the Jazz, the Guardian media.
You know what they didn't talk about? How many people from Trinidad? How many patrons from Trinidad? How many patrons from outside of the territories of Trinidad and Tobago? How many people from down the island drive their boat across? We need to know that, because otherwise what you're saying is you're spending 17 million, 20 million, 25 million to bring Trini stuff there on a weekend that they would have come in anyway. What you're saying, Chris? Right? We're paying Burna Boy.
I'm not saying anything.
We're paying these B-listers. Look, I saw the Burna Boy concert. I saw this guy down at what's his name? Down at this Gill down at Marshall Monk Monday or Monk Friday or whatever it was. And I'm saying, hey, great. Hey, these are wonderful B-list artists, young in their careers. But why are we paying them so much money to come here?
Christopher Gill cannot answer.
What is that?
Michael Awai, you have any comments?
Last night, Hopper and them had Scotch Festival, or whatever it was. Launch a Scotch FM radio. Trust me, they didn't spend $18 million on that.
Anything to say, Michael Awai?
Somebody keep my phone on.
No, the
wait. I see somebody knocking on the door there. Hold on.
Mind your business.
Minding the business, and we are going to Tobago.
Exactly.
Hold on. Go ahead. I'm trying to get Mr. X inside here.
Hold up here.
Go ahead.
So hear this one now. There's another headline that is somewhat related, and I'm just saying somewhat related. And I'm just going to read briefly the thing. TTL wants Google to post positive TNT stories. So Tourism Trinidad Limited wants Google to help promote positive news about Trinidad and Tobago through its search engines. The revelation came from TTL chairman Clifford Hamilton as he spoke about the threat of the country's crime rate posed to tourism before the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee panel yesterday. Acknowledging crime was a public menace to the country, he said the goal was to counteract international perception. Counteracted how, Mr. Hamilton? I'm curious. How are we going to counteract?
These fellas are real. They put on suit. They spend money on going to parliament, in the air-conditioned parliament, the three-piece suit and tie and fancy hat. And that's the foolishness we're talking.
Oh God, my guy is making. This is the what here now. You start to hold your head, and listen. Let me read. We are hoping are going on. I'm just going to read the next paragraph. We are hoping. Okay, what I want, and I'm going to see these words again. We are hoping that we will be able to enter some agreement with Google, whereby, in terms of the search engines, we would give them content that's positive. When you Google Trinidad, what comes up first are those positive things that we are saying about the country or other people are saying about the destination.
Maybe he read that on Google.
Tay, talk to this man. Does this man know how a search engine works? Do these people know how search engines work? How, like, oh my word.
Listen, there are people in our society who still don't know how to use the devices that we use in every single day. They don't know how to check the oil in the car. They don't know how to change the FM station on the radio. They don't know how to save a file and send it as a PDF.
But they know how to pay Flow every month so they will watch Netflix fully.
You're saying that like I feel attacked, Mike. I feel attacked. No, but seriously, let me say this, right? A lot of our society is tech enabled, but also tech illiterate, and we need to be able to evolve that. The user interfaces on most of the devices that we use are pretty straightforward, but the minute you start to get past the basics, it starts to become a little more difficult. For anybody who is, let's say, not a teenager, yeah, you're gonna catch a tail. But you see them teenagers, them youngsters, them on it quick. But
nonsense.
Anyhow, yeah, boy, Chris. Go ahead. Where's the next story?
No. I'll read and Hold on. Let me get to this. This is another one. No, and I bring this up because it keeps coming up. I thought we had gotten out of this, but it doesn't seem to be that way. So the scrap iron dealers are talking about they want help from the Tobago House of Assembly. So in essence, scrap iron dealers are talking about they want help from the oh gosh. Yeah, so scrap iron dealers want a meeting with the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly so that they can get help, right? So in essence, what they're asking is that a request was made by the president of the association, Alan Ferguson, as he addressed members of the media in a news conference on Wednesday at Studley Park. Ferguson said, "I'm asking Mr. Farley publicly to meet with the association so that we can help Tobagonians in the industry to be able to do things better." Now, I didn't know that, of course, yeah, they must have scrap iron to collect in Tobago as well, but I didn't know that it was an issue, and I don't know that it was. He wants to suggest to ask help for us to get a piece of land around a landfill so that we can able to set up something and make it easy for our members in Tobago. We would like to set up here and be able to do something right here in Tobago where we can collect the materials and have the facilities to dump where we can take the materials to Trinidad in barges and so on. So he's looking to attempt to, or at least start negotiations to set up the scrap iron or make the scrap iron industry more relevant in Tobago. Comments?
Very noble. He's a Ferguson, eh? There are a lot of initiative.
Let me say this though. Scrap iron dealers in the present context, social context, have a lot of licks. They get a lot of licks. My dad was a scrap iron dealer. When he came up from town, to town from south, he entered the scrap iron. So my yard in Mova, the yard where my my mom lived up in Bartaria. There was scrap iron everywhere, all kind of old motor, all kind of thing. And the way he built his, I don't want to say empire, but the way he built his business assets back in the 60s and in the early to late 70s, getting into that period of time in the mid 80s and the recession, I mean, you saw progress. Scrap iron dealers in today's social context, nobody could have ever accused my dad of thieving a manhole cover from the street. Nobody could have accused my dad of passing a night with a blowtorch and taking somebody's fence post. Nobody could have accused my dad of cutting down telco wire. You mad? But look at where we are today. We've been de-industrialized by these scrap iron dealers. Now, obviously not the whole industry, but you just need 2-3 bad apple and the whole of them getting labeled with this thing. So when you say you need to have this and you need to have that, no, brother. You need to create that reputation where your industry, your peers, your cohorts in that industry, the reputation is above board. I don't have to go and look for my lost car down by you and find it in one of the yards of one of your members. Nah. I driving through town the other day and a big pothole. Why? Because somebody thieved the manhole cover.
Yeah. Well,
all them old manhole covers, especially downtown, is all iron. Somebody thieved the gate.
Yeah, in
by Lord Harris Square.
The church.
They thieved beams from the North Stand, Chris.
I know. All right, let me get into it. So, since it's 200 million allocated for repair to secondary road, since its establishment in May 2022, the Secondary Road Rehabilitation and Improvement Company has undertaken just 9 projects. This was revealed by Chairman Herbert George, who said the state company is still in the building phase, and he responded to questions from Princeton MP Barry Prahadat. Prahadat during a meeting of the Joint Select Committee. Right? So Padarat expressed the view that the SSRIC, launched with an initial allocation of 100 million, had done nothing to date. Nothing. However, George explained that the company received 100 million with a plan, of course, to spend it on and build out and road repairs. He said once the SSRIC depletes that funding, another 100 million will be allocated in the budget, will become available for road repairs and rehabilitation. All right, and you see, this is you talk about a man wearing a suit and going in and talking such utter nonsense. What has this man just said? What has this gentleman, Mr. Herbert George, just actually said? You said that you've received 100 million with a plan to spend on a build out and road repairs. The question is, have you spent the 100 million on a build out and road repairs? And if you have only done 9 projects, has the 9 projects cost $200 million? Yeah, and that's the first thing he says is that we've only done 9 projects. 9.
But he didn't say the value. He didn't say the value of the projects.
No, he didn't say the value of projects or where they were, or what the projects did. So, I mean, he goes on further on to talk a bit about it, but to date, we have done, I would say, 7 or 8 projects. So now it's changing. It up the road, it was 9, now down anything, it's 7 or 8. That was while we were building out and taking place. As to quantum and value of projects, I can have them submitted afterwards. So he doesn't even have the value of the projects and the quantum. These people not for real.
Well, that is what passes for all of these people on state boards and all kind of. I keep telling you hardwood and cardboard and keep telling you that. Okay. When I used to be a director in the Nilamasi group, we used to say we have hardwood and cardboard. Okay, it's no different. It's no different in the government. I mean, yes, they begin by appointing a chairman and a board of about 7 or 8 people. They get a couple of $1,000 well per month at a board meeting, and so on. They have lunch at the board meeting, drinks and snacks and whatever else. At Christmas time, they give out all of these fancy gifts and so on. You'll be amazed at the kind of money they spend to do that. And yet, people are screaming. No, my role, I believe, in the Pitchfork Politics is one where I want to be the voice of the voiceless. Is one where I want to be the voice of the underserved. There are a lot of people who are not properly served in this country.
For sure.
There are a lot of people who are voiceless because they're afraid, because they have a government job, but they want to really say something that they're afraid to say. So I would like to ask people, send in your emails to us. I think our email is pitchforkpolitics@gmail.com. Send your concerns and we will hear it on your behalf. You're in charge. There's no ad. There's not an advertisement. There isn't a commercial.
Yeah, it is not commercial.
Because the lady in Barco and the lady in Valencia with the potholes, you see, there are a lot of things that are so different with that. Here what's happening. You can use aggregate, which is fine stone, or you can use blue limestone. Different finish on the mix. Different finish. A pebble creates a pothole. You have these big trucks and Tasca trucks and then going all through Barco. That's what mashing up the road. There's a law where trucks can only pass on particular routes. That doesn't apply in this country. The law is there, but it doesn't apply. So we are kind of like my great grandmother used to say, you lie down on the ground, you spit up in the ear, and go fall on and bust your eye. And that's what we're getting now.
True that. Very true.
That's what we're getting now. Everybody's complaining. Everybody's complaining. I haven't heard one person say, well, I just pay property tax and look, they have fixed this. I just pay water rates and they have fixed that. I mean, people are not doing what they're supposed to do, so how you get anything fixed?
Yeah, not doing it.
And you remember, the people in the politics, the people in the governance structure, the people who are in the government, they were people like everybody else. Now, when you all complain about the services in the public service, the permanent secretary was a Clark 1 30 years ago, was coming late, was signing and going downtown. They were doing the same thing. So I don't understand why people believe it change. It doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
It's just that you have a permanent secretary who used to be a Clark 1, Clark 2, Clark 3, Clark 4, but they're still coming to work late. I went to collect something in NLCB the other day. The girl came 9:30, and they tell me come for 8 o'clock. I had to wait an hour and a half to be told, who, that girl? Nah, she's come 9:30 every day. What do you have down there? That's what this country is. So I don't understand why you all are surprised and why you want to say this and that and afraid to say the other. I am not a member of any political party. Okay? I'm a Freemason. People won't know what that is. They like to say Freemason run the country and so on and so on and so on. But I mean, let's get real here. If you don't pay taxes, this is another one, Chris and T. I asked a guy the other day, why the country on foreign exchange? How do you get foreign exchange? He tell me from the bank. He said from the bank. I said, okay. So how does the bank get it? He said, what are you asking me? You want to ask the bank? Have you done with me? And that's the level. No, because I categorize people as 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, I determine very quickly what level you are. You are 1, you are 3, you are 5, or 7, or 9. So you can understand. Huh?
He's a 5. He might be a 3.
Nah, he's a 0.5. He's a 0.5.
All right. Let's do. Of course, we have a little segment coming, and we're going to start a segment.
Before I do that, I just want to shout out all the viewers. I'm seeing we have 6 viewers live. All right. That ain't bad. Let's see if we can get to 10. Or just share the thing. Share the thing. I see we have 2 thumbs up. Thank you. I hope it's not the right hand and the left hand thumb from the same person, but let me say thank you to all the viewers.
The middle finger controls the heart, eh?
Well, I have to say, the show last week got some good views, though, right?
Nice,
a lot of views, and it drove my my YouTube channel 34,000
clicks.
Sorry, not 34,000. 34 point, almost 40 watch hours.
All right.
Almost 40 watch hours. I mean, almost 40 people watch the whole show. So thank you, and keep sharing. All right.
And we building something. So
yeah. Listen, we're here for the show. We're here for the long haul. This is our country. We have to talk about the things that we like, and real talk about the things that we real don't like.
So I'm going to get down into the breakdown. Now, the breakdown for our viewers is where we take a topic and we try to break it down. Of course, hopefully this topic is one that is relevant to you. Now, the topic that's been in the news over the last, I want to say for this week, has been local government reform, and more so the passing of the bill, which would have been, I think yesterday, the bill might have been passed in the Senate. I'm not sure if it was passed in the lower house. The bill that would have been passed for basically some local government reform, which included making Superior and Digger Martin boroughs. And what that basically means is that they are no longer regional corporations, they are boroughs, and if they are boroughs, they have a mayor, and they basically have that formality. So I'm going to read the article that had, and I want people to understand that the article was done in the Newsday, was interesting. It starts off with my boy Anil Roberts. Anil Roberts scoffs, the headline was Anil Roberts scoffs at borough status, and he makes a comment, it won't improve lives. And I want to agree. Opposition Senator Anil Roberts on Tuesday in the Senate forecast that changing two regional corporations into boroughs would still see local residents plagued by problems such as flooding. He damned the miscellaneous provisions, blah, blah, blah bill, you all can look it up, as being useless as false eyelashes on a beautiful woman. I don't know where Anil is getting this thing.
Lipstick on a pig.
He went on to talk a couple other things, right? He basically was making the thing that, all of this is just wasting time. We ain't going forward with nothing here, right? That he said, like the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Faris Alwari, who spoke eloquently with passion, with great research for 37 minutes and 35 seconds, I too have absolutely nothing to say. Oh God, Anil is, So that was part of it. It goes on to talk about things like, to be quite honest, there were comments.
What there, Chris?
I don't know, something happened with my computer, so I might have to.
Yeah, I gotta pay a bill, Chris. Yeah,
Oh, it's something from the Newsday website that has just.
Oh Lord.
So, and it's claiming my computer's been locked up.
Man, I send you the bootleg newspaper PDFs, man.
Nah,
this is
Newsday.
Dad.
Alright, so I'm gonna have to log off and come back on.
Nah, you're walking. Don't worry about that. Come on, man. Let's talk. We had to wrap up. We only have 12 minutes to go again.
So in essence, what is happening there is he was basically saying the comments. So I want the comments from you all in terms of Michael. Michael, you had made the claim already that changing his borough status does not make a difference. And none of the new rules that are coming in really seems to help the Burgesses. And what you think? I mean, just make your comments on it.
Well, you see, Chris, at the end of the day, the people are the ones who need to be served or serviced. All of these paraphernalia and all these grand charge numbers and phrases and allocations and so on sounds good. And it's par for the course for the parliamentarians and for the politicians. But at the end of the day, if the garbage isn't picked up, if the drains are not cleared, if the people don't show garbage down in the drains, there'll be no blockage and flooding. If the people do not put up unauthorized walls to change the passage of the water in the area, you will have these problems. Now, Digger Martin is a fairly organized and fairly clean place. West Victoria Gardens in the north, in the south, sorry, you have up in the North Blue Basin Gardens and so on. You have Rich Plain, you have Bagatelle. You have a new steel band coming out, and the community steel band Meritoon is making a resurgence back in the system. You have the football area, the cricket area that Patrick Rampersad tried to dictate that it is a cricket field and not a football field. But you have all of these situations. At the end of the day, people should pay their taxes, whatever you call it, property tax, land tax, whatever. Because it is the only way that they can be serviced in the areas. But because of the way we are structured in the country, where the money and the allocation is centralized, there's no law like in the US, for example, where Jigger Martin will keep his own money. Whether it's breaking the light in Jigger Martin or for not paying the driver's permit, you can live in Jigger Martin and so on. So despite you call it whatever you want to call it, a pig with lipstick, a borough, a new corporation, a new whatever, at the end of the day, it is controlled by the central government that dictates and determines what it is. So obviously, the boy down in Sequoia feeling squeezed. So you're getting some people moving from UNC to PNM. You have the situation where people, these rules are not paid. I mean, there should be a fund of funding for what I will refer to as the central government as opposed to the federal government to allocate monies where there's a crisis. But these things are not happening. So the people feel aggrieved. Now, whether they are PNM, UNC, PEP, NTA, whatever, they feel aggrieved because the road is not paved. And that's what we need. Those are the issues that we need to address in the country. Not whether or not the deadline for local government is the 26th. Okay, so the 29th. Okay, so the 30th. No big deal. But the roads in Valencia, as an example, the roads in how you call it, is an example, in Barapo and so on. And we need, as a government, as a government responsible for the administration of the country, to deal with these matters as a matter of urgency. But then you have to go back to the poor methods in which the roads are not being examined properly and they're being passed as good roads and they're not good roads. So in a few years, they're breaking up as it's happened now. When you look at the substrat material of the roads that they put on, it's gravel, it's just gravel, they put a layer of gravel and they just put some, and the mix of the asphalt is combined of sand and bitumen and gravel to make asphalt. I mean, come on, those fellas know the game well. They pave the road so they know next 3 years we budgeting and we have to pave the road again. This is what happens in this country. So we need to get the people involved, the voiceless people, the underserviced people, the underserved people, to come out and make a statement. You have to burn a tire and block the road. You have to keep happening at your organization, and public opinion is going to be the winner at the day.
T, comments?
For me, excuse me. For me, the difference between what you call it, irrelevant. A lot of what Mike said is very, very pertinent. Where does the money go? Who runs these budgets? If we familiarize ourselves with the way local government budgets are allocated to different projects, and if we as it uses the word Burgesses, if we as people in the community understand our power and our position, we will start to realize the influence we can have over which projects get named as going to be prioritized in that election cycle. But the bottom line of it is it's politics. Politics is not democracy. Do not get carried away with this concept that we have politics and we have political parties fighting each other. So that demonstrates that democracy is working. Democracy and politics are oftentimes two totally polar opposite things. We need to democratize our value of our life in our communities, especially at-risk communities, especially borderline communities, especially communities with high levels of crime and unemployment and what we talked about at the start of the show, school dropouts. When you are living in a community like that, the color-based politics is too simple. We're too easy. We get tied up, we get chained up, we get wind up, and what? We get put in place, right? So it don't matter. But because these people have access to the mainstream media, They getting three idiots like me to talk this though. This is what it gonna make sense. Whether it's a borrow day or whether it's a regional corporation day. What are you talking about? The Royal Borough of Arima or the Borough of Point Fortin, where Iowa George, hand in hand. It doesn't matter if you're not being served. If all you get is one box drain in the last 20 years and your road ain't paved and once are digging up your road and you still ain't getting water, you had a quarrel about them thing, not about whether it's. Yeah, you know what? In my opinion, I think it's going to make more sense to name it a borough.
Gentlemen, there's an item that I'd like to discuss, not to discuss, really to inform the public about. I don't know if we have the time. It is about cross, not Holy Cross, not CROSS, the CROS. It's called the Companies Registry Operating System. You may have recognized that sometime in December, I think it was December the 9th, the system quote unquote crashed. That is to say, although it was a manual system in the company registry, it quote unquote crashed. And it was resolved with a new system on the 1st of February. A lot of people are not understanding this system. A lot of people, like typical Trinidadians, which we are, and Tobagonians, are taking it for granted. But the bottom line is that you cannot, from the 1st of February, do anything in your company, limited liability company that is, or your NPO, or your club, or whatever, unless all the members, the shareholders, the directors, the corporate secretary, etc., are registered in the company's registry. You may have observed that there was a deadline extended from last year, the next 3 months, and the next 3 months, and it's now extended to the 30th of June, which means that there were 5 months in which people had to adjust themselves to the new system. The system emails you directly. The system prompts you about the annual return in particular, which is the anniversary date of the incorporation of your company, etc., etc. A lot of people are not following this up and taking it for granted. For me, where I sit, I think that the 30th of June will be the last amnesty extension, tax exemption, tax amnesty, sorry. Right. When that happens, there'll be a lot of penalties that people have to pay, which are irreversible except changed by the parliament. So this is an appeal to people who have companies and who are not registered as individual shareholders and directors to ensure it is done as soon as possible to meet the tax amnesty deadline. Because you pay $300 per month penalty for something that you didn't do. So if, for example, your anniversary date of the incorporation of your company is the 28th of February, you have 30 days after that to file, which is the 30th of March. Now, if you don't file, and in order to file, you have to be registered. So if you have 6 directors, you have to get all the 6 directors, and I'll give you the list of what you need to supply. So after the 30th of March, you have April, May, June, July down the line. That is about 8 months multiplied by 3. That is $2,400. So as of December of the year end, you'll have to pay $2,400 in penalties. The next year, it becomes $3,600. But in Trinidad, we like to do things last minute. We forget, we don't do this, and then we want to rush in, they make a blind. And then what happens now, the banks are asking for the annual return of your company every year. So this is an appeal to small business people who have a limited liability company, contractors, individuals who have, who have a husband and wife company, etc., to ensure that they are registered. And what do you need to be registered? You need to send in, you need to get online first. That's the first thing.
All right.
You need to
let him go. Don't let me go into that. We don't have time
no,
for
but
that,
I'm just saying to you that it is important because it's going to cost the individual people in this country plenty money in tax. But so if you don't pay property tax, you will get back a different place. Bye-bye.
All right, we have about a minute and a little bit.
I wanted to add something to what Mike had said there. Tie that in as well to the procurement legislation that was also passed. And if you're bidding for anything at all with government paycheck, you have to have that procurement documentation, and part of that is making sure you pay your taxes.
Right.
I am going through that
Yeah.
process right now. I'm working with my accountant, and yes, so far everything is smooth. And something of what Mike had said there earlier, the system was down, but you know what? I made a complaint on Twitter, TT Game Plan. Anywhere you want to go on the internet, TT Game Plan, one word. And you know what? Within, I don't think 24 hours had passed, I got a flurry. Everybody from e-business, everybody called and they helped and they guided me through this process. And what I told them is, I wish we could live in a place where we didn't have to get interventions from the top of the line, but you know what? We did. And so far, what I can say is that the system has been working properly, even though it is not fully 100% online. Some of the servers are not working, but yeah. But what Mike is saying here is very, very important.
Very.
You're gonna get plays.
Yeah, you're gonna get plays.
You see that minister of coin? He ain't playing. He digging up on that couch and he's sucking up every last shilling that falls through your pants pocket. That minister of coin is not playing.
Yeah, they need the money. All right, well, folks.
God, Ebola cough is that, boy. I'm sitting in that studio, boy, Mike, boy, that dead. You know what it is that all that fumes he taking in there.
It is.
Yeah, man.
Again, a great show, guys. I want to thank you all for spending the hour, and I want to thank our audience for being here for the hour and as we build. And I want you all to understand that Pitchfork Politics is about having a voice for, as Michael quite eloquently put it, those who don't have a voice normally, those who don't get their requests heard, those who don't have a place, an avenue to voice their concerns and their needs and their desires in this Trinidad and Tobago. And as Tay quite right, I love that quote, politics is not democracy. I think I want to end on that note. I want everybody to understand that politics is not democracy. And for me, the last comment I want to make is with the local government reform. There is nothing in it that I read that gives the ability for the average citizen to have greater influence over the decisions made by those entities. There is nothing really. We need a system that allows the citizens to have a much bigger say, a much more democratic influence and say in what gets done and not done, what roads get paved, how things are done. And that hasn't changed, to be quite honest. And like Basil Pandey says, we need constitutional reform. So from all of us here, Dennis T. Allen at TNT Game Plan, Michael Adolph Awai, the man himself, the original Red Man, and me, Christopher Gill, following in the footsteps of Red Man number 2. I want to wish you all a pleasant Corpus Christi holiday. You all have a good day.
Next week.
Next week.
Thursday, Sherry King. You go on.
Yeah. Right.